Hello everyone, my name is Brady with OWC, and today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new 24-inch iMac from Apple. This is the first redesign in almost a decade for the iMac, so it's going to be quite a treat to take a look and see what it's about. We got the silver version here, but it comes in multiple colors as well. We also got an 8-core CPU and 7-core GPU model with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. But you could get it in a version of up to 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU with 16 gigs of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage. This iMac has 2 Thunderbolt/USB 4 ports, but you also have the option of adding up to 2 additional Type-C USB 3 ports. Even the box is slightly different, being more square than the previous wedge shape, and I'm even told the canvas handle here matches the color of the iMac you purchased. With that being said, let's go ahead and open this up and take a peek on the inside. Now everything inside here is actually upside down. This is the top of the box with the handle. This is the bottom of the box. And it looks like the iMac is in here upside down with the foot in through here. Apple conveniently put these 2 arrows here. So now that we have everything laid out on the table here, let's take a look and see what we have. First, we have the documentation and Apple sticker. In the middle here, we have the Magic Mouse, Magic Keyboard, and the charging cable. The Magic Mouse is pretty standard to what Apple previously had. The Magic Keyboard is a bit upgraded with more rounded corners. We have the standard version, but there is an option to get an upgraded version with the Touch ID. Additionally, the charging cable here is USB-C on one end to Lightning on the other. Again, that's for charging, not so much for data. And finally on the end here, we have the brand new external power supply. This is a first for the iMac, and it has this really neat magnetic connector end. Since we have the base iMac, our power supply did not come with the gigabit Ethernet, although that is an option you could add. Additionally, gigabit Ethernet in the power supply is included with the 2 upgraded models of iMac. Now let's go ahead and remove the fabric on this and see what it looks like. Look at that, Apple says hello. Let's get to the actual iMac now. Now that we have the fabric and plastic off the iMac, you can take a moment to admire just how sleek it is. And it is very, very sleek. On the front here, we have the bottom bezel, which is where you got all the hardware components, with the monitor up here. Up top here, we have the 1080p FaceTime camera, with a few microphones up here as well. Now this is very light, which means it's very easy to move around on your desk if you so wish. On the side here, you can see just how narrow it actually is. Additionally, you could use the 3.5mm headphone jack here to give you a better idea of just how slim it is. On the back here, we have 2 Thunderbolt/USB 4 ports, but like I previously said, you have the option to add 2 more additional USB 3 Type-C ports. On the side here, we have the power button. In the middle here on the back, we have a new stand design with a new hinge as well. And in the middle of that, we have the extremely cool magnetic connector for the power supply. So now that we've looked at the outside of this beautiful iMac, it's time to take a look at the inside. Hello everybody, Future Brady here. After we filmed our initial segment with the silver iMac, we received in a higher tier iMac model in a sweet blue color. So we decided to add that into this video as well. This newer model has the 8-core GPU and the 2 extra USB ports on the back. RAM and storage is otherwise the same. First are some obvious differences. There's the addition of the 2 USB-C ports located on the back. This keyboard has a Touch ID feature for added security. You can also see the unique color theme is continued throughout the iMac and the accessories, such as the keyboard edges, the underside of the mouse, and the braided cables. This model comes with the Ethernet port in the power supply, with the cable and connector of that power supply matching the rest of the color theme. They even went so far as to match the included Apple stickers with the chosen color theme. That's it for the external differences. I'll be cutting in later for more. We went ahead and removed the screen off the iMac, removed the heat shield over the logic board here, and now we got a good idea of everything going on the inside. Up here, you can see the camera and the microphone setup. These 3 cables here attached to the back of the monitor to give it its power and video. In the middle here, on the other side of the iMac is actually the Apple symbol, but between that and this plate here we have Wi-Fi antennas. Neat little place to put it. You can actually see the piece of the antenna running down there. Right in the middle here we have 2 very, very thin CMOS batteries. Down here on either side we have 2 speaker assemblies with the tweeters and woofers built in. We got these metal boxes here, and they're used to channel the air into them from the woofers to give the iMac a bit more bass, a bit more oomph to the sound. Sound in this is very impressive, partially as a result of these chambers. On this corner here, we actually have some circuitry for the 3.5mm headphone jack, and underneath is the power button. In the middle here, this is actually the mounting plate for the stand. So you have to actually remove the screen to replace the stand. Right here we have a fan. On this model we only have 1, however there are other models that have another fan on this side here. Right here we actually have the I/O, so there's the 2 Thunderbolt ports. What's neat about this is it's actually a removable, it's not attached to the logic board. So maybe perhaps in the future we'll be able to replace this if these ports go bad. So let's go ahead and remove the logic board here so we can take a look at the other side. We removed the logic board from the iMac to give you a better idea of what it looks like. First and foremost, right here smack dab in the middle, is the magnetic power connector for the power cable. It's very neat to see how it is attached to the logic board in that manner. Next to it off to the side here, something I was very impressed by, is this is actually the heatsink for the M1 chip underneath. The size of it is very narrow, very small. The fact that that is enough to keep the M1 chip cool is quite impressive. On the other side of that, we have a couple of power management chips, and between the heatsink and the power connector, we have one of the flash modules for the SSD. There's another one on the other side as well, each of those being 256 gigs for a total of 512. On the side right here, we have the Bluetooth module. Compared to the other M1 iMac models, this logic board here is actually a bit longer, however it has a much smaller heatsink and does not have the heat pipes. Now let's go ahead and remove that heatsink so we can take a look at the M1 chip itself. We went ahead and removed the heatsink on the M1 chip and cleaned it up a bit to give you an idea of what it looks like. Here's the M1 chip itself. Again, we have the 8-core CPU, 7-core GPU version. Right here we have the 2 flash chips for the memory. Since we have the 16GB version, each one of these is 8 gigs each. Additionally, we have the underside of the heatsink here to show you exactly what that looks like. And if you're ever curious how big an Apple M1 SoC actually is, there's a quarter. And that's all the major areas of interest on this logic board. So let's put it back together. So we went ahead and opened up this iMac, and one of the first things you'll notice is the outside color was carried to the inside as well. For the most part, this model iMac's interior is identical to the other iMac model. However, if you look over here, there's a lot of new stuff going on. First, there's the addition of a new fan, another I/O board for the USB ports, an interconnect board to tie it in with the logic board, and the logic board itself is shorter than the other version. We'll go ahead and pull this all out and take a closer look. We pulled out the logic board as well as the interconnect board. To compare it to the other iMac, here's what that logic board looks like. Physically, the sizes are different between the two. Everything on this side over from the other iMac's logic board has been moved to the interconnect board. You have the Thunderbolt retimers, you have the USB power delivery chips, the addition of 2 more power delivery chips for those extra 2 ports, and the USB controller. Everything on this side of the logic boards is pretty much identical, minus the heat sinks between the two. This is more of a plate design, while this is more of a heat pipe and fin design. We've got the iMac put back together now, so let's go ahead and plug it in and see how it performs. So after we got this iMac powered up and checked for updates, we went ahead and ran some benchmarks on it as well to determine general system performance. The first test we ran was Geekbench 5. This measures CPU performance using a variety of tests. Single-core performance, we got a score of 1731, and for multi-core performance, we got a score of 7513. The next program we used was GFX Bench. This is a benchmark that measures GPU performance. The test we used was 1080p Manhattan off-screen. For that, we achieved a score of 363 frames per second. And finally, the last test we ran was Blackmagic Disk Speed Test. This measures the standard transfer speed of the internal drive in the iMac. For that, we got a write speed of 2,751 megabytes per second and a read speed of 2,868 megabytes per second. The scores we achieved are pretty darn impressive, but I know of some ways we could improve the capabilities of this iMac as well. Since this model has the 8-core GPU, we went ahead and ran some benchmarks to see how it compares to the 7-core GPU model. Geekbench single-core score was close at 1748, with the multi-core score noticeably higher at 7743. GFX Bench was higher too, which was expected due to the extra GPU core, at 405 frames per second. Finally, Blackmagic Disk Speed Test was very close at 2973 megabytes per second write and 2859 megabytes per second read. Okay, we went ahead and added a number of items to this iMac that I believe will significantly improve the capabilities of it. First off, we have the Thunderbolt dock right down here. This effectively doubles the number of Thunderbolt ports on the iMac, as well as adding additional USB ports, a card reader, and other ports as well. From the dock, we have the Envoy Electron right here in front. It's a tiny form factor with massive capacity up to 2 terabytes. It's very portable as well, making transferring data between devices very easy. Next to the Electron, we have the Envoy Pro FX. What's unique about this device is it's compatible over both USB and Thunderbolt. So regardless of whatever port you plug it into on this iMac, you'll be able to get the max speed possible. Behind the Electron and the Envoy FX, we have the Mercury Elite Pro dock. This allows for 2 3.5-inch hard drives to be hardware rated for a maximum capacity of up to 36 terabytes. Since it's Thunderbolt, it allows for additional docking functionality as well, adding USB ports, card reader, etc. If you've been paying attention, you may have noticed that while we only have 3 drives here, we have 4 icons on the screen. That's because we have an additional drive tucked in the back here that we'll show you right now. This beautiful device on the back is the Envoy Express. It is a bus-powered, add-your-own drive enclosure with the ability to conveniently adhere to your iMac or any other host via its included slide mount. So if you'd like to double or even quadruple the amount of storage within this iMac, you could easily mount this on the back like we did here. Today we unboxed the brand new 2021 M1 iMac, reviewed all the included accessories, took a look at what's inside to see what's underneath this beautiful screen. We ran some benchmarks to get an idea of how it performs, which is impressive. And finally, we looked at some ways to increase storage capacity and expand the capabilities of the iMac. For me personally, I absolutely love how thin and narrow it is. The magnetic power connector is the absolute coolest, and the M1 chip means I know it's going to perform amazingly well. If you'd like some information on the items we shown today, or if you'd like to view additional accessories as well, check out macsales.com. Additionally, the Rocket Yard blog is there for more info, tips, and tricks. For OWC, I'm Brady. Have a good day, everyone.